All right, everyone. The other day, AOC made one of her cringy Instagram live broadcasts there, and I guess the idea is that she was sitting there doing her "I'm just a bartender from the Bronx" sort of shtick. So she was mixing, I guess, some sort of drink, and I'm not even 100% sure that it's labeled margarita, but I'm not sure that that was actually a margarita she was making. I'm not sure, and who cares, honestly. She was just dumping random liquor into a jar, probably in order to get sloshed. But so she's getting wasted, and she's ranting the whole time angrily about how government doesn't do enough. We need more money for programs. You know, the standard socialist bullshit. And I'm thinking to myself, the things she's saying are so off hinge. Like, number one, the optics. Oh yeah, the government needs to do more. You know, drink, drink, drink. That doesn't look good, but that's actually the better side of it, is the optics are more humorous than anything else. You've got this sort of brain dead sort of stereotype of the sort of weird, out there, far left, entitled, spoiled millennial. That's AOC's basic aura about her. That's survivable because at the very least you keep her around to say and do weird shit, and I'm sure the Republicans are so glad every time she broadcasts. The Republican, she is like literally a gift from God to Donald Trump and the Republicans because the optics are so screwed up, especially among older voters. All they see is this is the symbol of what the Democrats have become, and of course she has been made essentially the face of the Democratic Party, which I said was going to happen when she started saying weird shit in the first place. Trump came out and basically insinuated that she and Omar and some of these others were the new face of the Democrats. That's terrible. They'd rather have Joe Biden be their face because at least he's like, he may be demented and boring, but you know, he's not that out there for the most part. But she's ranting about how the government needs to do more, and I'm thinking to myself, the things she's saying aren't technically wrong. She's like, well, you know, there weren't too many grants, or you know, we've never had too much help from the government, have we? No, we haven't, AOC. And here's the thing: what you and leftists believe is the government doesn't help enough, let's expand the government. What I believe, and what sane people believe, is the government doesn't help enough because structurally it's incapable of doing so, and we should scale back. Since the war on poverty began in the 70s, have things actually gotten better for large swaths of America? No. Now, there are exceptions. There are certain government programs that make a return, they work well, they disproportionately benefit society. For instance, WIC, food assistance for low-income families. You have some kid who otherwise would be malnourished. Malnourishment can lead to a lower brain development. It can harm families. It can harm development in the cognitive sense. WIC pays for itself enormous dividends. Having lower malnutrition among young children helps them to get a head start that they otherwise wouldn't have. It helps the family, certainly. And it's a good thing. By the way, my family, when I was young, of course, we were from the lower echelon of society. We got WIC. And that was a good thing because otherwise, yes, there could have been some food shortages, so to speak. Food stamps, to an extent. The idea that there's actually systemic fraud in the food stamp program has been largely discredited, and for every dollar you're putting into it, technically you're getting more than $1 out. There's some fuzzy math involved, but it's overall, at the end of the day, because private industry is technically benefiting, because food is being bought out of stores and going back and being taxed several times, as everything is, ultimately you're not paying that much into food stamps. And benefits fraud aside, for the most part, it's quite beneficial, and I think they should reform it. For instance, you should prioritize healthy food. It's not meant to pay for your entire diet. It's meant to give you nutritious food. Yes, by the way, the amount you get if you're truly poor really does make a difference. I briefly had food stamps many years ago, again, back when I was very poor. I don't begrudge people who are poor that kind of assistance. Food is something that we all need. What else are they going to do? You'd have to resort to crime. You'd have to break into someone's house, rob them to go get a hamburger or something. Well, we can try to tamp down on that with these programs, but as a systemic overarching concept, the idea of socialism a la an actual leftist platform like AOC is proposing. We want to ban transatlantic flight. We need to ban cattle production because cow farts harm the ozone layer, or some stupid, total dumbass shit like that. We need to double food stamps. We need everything free, healthcare, no more student loans, free college, which is taxpayer funded, the economy you would design would leave more people behind than the economy you currently have. The answer to it, like the answer to healthcare isn't more government involved. The answer is get the government out of healthcare. Break apart the pharma monopolies. They're artificial monopolies created by government regulation. The government has made it impossible for smaller companies and upstarts and even foreign competitors, large or small, to actually get in on our marketplace. They've made it almost impossible for upstarts to exist at all. What happens is that if there is an upstart and they've got a good idea, they get gobbled up by a bigger competitor because they can't afford the kind of lawyers and accountants needed to navigate the bureaucracy. It's an artificial government-created system that causes prices to be sky high and even increases shortages in some cases. We see the limitations of our extremely intervened-in healthcare system right now. And, well, why aren't smaller competitors able to manufacture these drugs at least in time of crisis? Why aren't those patents, why isn't there an asterisk after the trademarks on these things? I think that there probably should be. That being said, the same goes for college. It used to be that your part-time burger flipper in the 50s could pay their full college tuition. Can you do that now? Of course not. That's because government came in with the bright idea, oh, well, there are people who are even more poor than that who can't get an education. We'll give subsidies to the colleges. We'll give grants to the students so that they can get in if they're smart and they're meritorious. What did the colleges do? They raised the prices because now they're guaranteed the money. So it's higher risk. They just raise the prices and build another stadium. They build another theater. They build another student center. They spend it on a modern art display. They expand their women's studies wing or entire women's studies college at this point. And it's ridiculous. Government caused that problem. It wasn't lack of government. Here's what AOC is saying is we need more government because the government's not doing enough. What I say is the government can't do any more. The government's not supposed to do most of these things. You're supposed to make your way in life. The government is meant to provide a basic guarantor that people don't die and that children are taken care of and so forth for the very poor part of society, but it should structure it in such a way that as few people as possible need those things. What AOC is saying is, well, I wish more people were poor. Everyone should get more money from the government. You're talking about destroying the U.S. economy. You're talking about using a system, actually, when you really look at the proposals, that isn't even used by the... Like when Bernie and all these other dumbass socialists said, whoa, we want a Nordic model of socialism. We're not talking about Venezuela. No, if you look at your proposals, you are talking about Venezuela. I don't care if you call it democratic socialism. The fact that you have elections doesn't make it less socialistic. It just means that it's a representative form of government. It's so you institute the collapse of the U.S. into a third world potato patch through the ballot box instead of by shooting people. Now you start shooting people later when they try to overthrow your shitty system, probably. That's what you want, but it's not Nordic model hyper-capitalism with welfare that you're talking about. You're talking about outright socialism a la Venezuela. You're talking about centralization and nationalization of key industries. The government has already done that. It's done it over and over again. Has it helped you? AOC is fundamentally right. Well, there aren't enough grants. There aren't enough this. There aren't enough that. Government isn't helping. It's never going to. Look at countries where the government is all-encompassing, and I'll show you a poor nation. That's just the way that it is. Like they talk a big game about like the Netherlands or something. Like the Netherlands is supposedly like one of these states that Bernie Sanders likes because of welfare or something. There's a hyper-capitalistic aspect to it. There's definitely, there was a case, what was it? I was looking up some municipality, and they rearranged the border just to eliminate aspects of the bureaucracy. Like the government over the last decade or so has done everything possible to decentralize things whenever possible. It's on a privatization spree. It's not a socialistic country. It's high tax, certainly, but it's not outright socialism in that sense. The redistributionist system that's here it's different from the kind of thing that the United States has done. The war on poverty has largely involved the government simply taking over anything that doesn't work and then making it work even less. That's the problem. Have you ever seen a government road crew at work with 4 people standing around watching one person dump gravel into a pothole that took 2 years for them to fix? Damn right a privatized system would work better. Yeah, your roads would be better. Your roads would absolutely be better if it were a privatized system. The healthcare industry would be cheaper and more people would not need insurance at all. Why would you need insurance if the cost of goods and services is within the budget of the average lower middle classer? Most people wouldn't even need it. And for the truly poor, you could have a direct subsidy. You don't need to have 10,000 pages of legalism and artificial pharma monopolies making the price of a pill that in Africa costs 10 cents cost $10. It's not necessary. It's also, by the way, not capitalism we operate under. We are closer in some aspects to socialism than those same Nordic countries that are constantly talked about by Bernie Sanders. AOC thinks that everything will magically get better if we add another layer of government, but we've tried it for 50 years. It has never improved anything. It makes things more expensive and makes more what it does. It doesn't uplift the bottom of society and give everyone more. No, it shoves down the working class. The lower middle class and the working class are the hardest hit every time government expands. They get their heads shoved back down, the poor get a little bit of a boost, and what you've got is a bigger lower class. And then they try to renormalize things, and then the new norm, of course, through the rise of cost of goods, inflation, and so forth, a rise in the cost of living, slowly those people peter back down and they become poor again. And the government says, well, it didn't work, we need to do it again. It's never going to work. You will simply increase poverty. You'll simply be redefining what poverty is each time, and each time, of course, the government takes more of the productive wealth from the middle and upper middle class. People who otherwise would invest a bit, they would be better off. They'd be able to live their lives and do their thing, and they wouldn't need assistance. Hell, no proper society infused with capitalism in the true sense could possibly argue that it would be necessary and proper to have people in the middle class, again, reasonably well off, they got their own house, they paid off their car, they've got the 2 kids in the picket fence, should have to take government assistance. It should never be necessary. Even in time of recession, it shouldn't be necessary. And they certainly shouldn't have to worry about the government intervening in things and stopping them from even producing. Right now, the government has basically shut capitalism down temporarily because of a flu. Yes, real capitalist system, totally free market. The government can unilaterally tell you can't even leave your house. Liberty, free market. Yeah, that's the problem. We've got too much of the free market thing going on. We need more government power. You got to be asinine to believe this. I'm not surprised she was getting sloshed because the things that she was saying clearly are the words of an ignorant drunkard. That's about all. Peace out.